In this episode of OG 55, we are reacting to part 2 of the O'Keefe Disney tapes. We're going to play the video. We're going to react to it along the way, just like we did with part 1. Up next, I got Seymour Duck and the Italiano with me. Let's go. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. Like I said, we are reacting to part 2 of the Disney tapes from Mr. James O'Keefe. But before I do that, I want to introduce my fantastic panel. We got the Italiano. George, welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me back on. This is going to be another juicy topic, another juicy discussion. I know we had the part 1 where we all discussed it and viewed it and broke it down, and I don't even know what to think of it, but it's like
we all had a good laugh together, didn't we?
Did.
It was
yes. I mean, and based off of what this one is, not to get too far into it, we'll definitely see it, but this is going to be the complete opposite of part 1, which basically cancels out part 1. And it's just a whole, it's so complex, folks. You'll see as we dive along. But anyway, if you'd like to find me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you could find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. And down below, we got Mr. Seymour Duck. Seymour, welcome back, brother.
Hello. Glad to be back here, and I'm excited because I forgot to eat dinner today, so now I'm hungry for some spice.
Exactly. We got some spice coming your way, Seymour. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck.
There he is. Make sure you follow this man. He does great stuff, great financial analysis, Nintendo, Disney, all that stuff. So make sure you give him a follow.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys. This is from the one and only James O'Keefe. Let me go ahead and adjust the screen here. So we're going to play it same as we always do here on reaction videos. We're going to play the video and we'll stop and talk about it along the way.
Do you think that they wouldn't hire a C-suite who's not white or not Jewish?
In entertainment, no. There's also a slight glass ceiling for that. I feel like it's not, there's a glass ceiling. It's not quite like been reached yet. You're not going to see a CFO I guess, for lack of a word, non-white, non-Jewish.
Unless you are a white Jewish man, well, you're likely never going to see Disney's C-suite.
Oh man, this is crazy, right? Because we reacted to part 1. In part 1, the narrative was, Disney isn't promoting white men. They're not hiring white men, right? And now we get to this video, and apparently, if you're a white man, you get all the good positions.
And honestly, it's starting to kind of showcase too the type of the people that they're actually interviewing or lack thereof, or on a date lack thereof, that they're looking through the lens through their own perspective. For instance, the first video was Michael that speaking as a white male, oh, I don't have the opportunities because this is who I am, yada, 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 yada. Now they're speaking to someone a person of color who isn't white. Oh, I don't have that opportunity because I'm this person. So therefore the white person gets it. So I think when it's like an optic lens that depending on who they're referring to or talking to, it's almost like that they have like this kind of self-pity upon themselves of saying, I can't get this job. But no, it still goes by the qualifications.
Yeah. Well, and again, with the 2 big ass glasses of wine, just like Michael, right? So let's get the liquor flowing, right? But here's the other thing too. You're absolutely right about that, George. Where it kind of feels a little bit like a pity party, right? It's like, oh man, they're not hiring me because of I'm too white, or they're not hiring me because I'm not white enough. And it's like, what's going on here? It's almost like, those guys who like, they'll approach a girl and they get rejected, and then they'll come back to their homies and be like, well, she doesn't like dudes with, with blue eyes. It's like, well, no, maybe she does, but maybe you're just not it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the energy is here with this. You know what I'm saying? It's very much like, hey, you know what? I'm not getting promoted. Therefore, it must be something, there must be some sinister, thing going on in the background. We'll get into it a lot more, but Seymour, before we dive back in, what are your initial thoughts?
There's a guy, I'm going to butcher his name, Azad Aza.
Right.
He's 100% Pakistani, and he's the chief brand officer for Disney.
And I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit. He's 100%. You say Pakistani?
Yes, and he's not white, and he has a chief brand officer position for Disney, top level. He's the chief brand officer of Walt Disney and the president of marketing for the Walt Disney Studio and Disney Plus.
Yep, and that promotion actually just happened when Bob Iger came back, and he reports directly to Bob Iger.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Like Asian and Hispanic.
Haitian.
Hispanic mix. Just left Disney like a month ago. She left because she didn't really have. She's a woman. She didn't really have either of the bosses in her corner.
Okay.
And she quit saying that she just is like, I was not feeling right. So I feel. And that being said, that the department heads are two Jewish men. Not that I have any against this man, I'm just saying that she, being of color, felt that and she quit. Because she just said, I can't seem to like.
The very well qualified Haitian Hispanic woman who had rapidly worked her way up the Disney ladder left the company, acknowledging that she likely had no future there, oddly enough, because she wasn't white, Jewish, or man enough.
So maybe
I am
honestly, this is honestly ridiculous.
Well, it's ridiculous, especially when you have the context of the first video where he was literally saying the exact opposite. Where you were a white man, you were being passed over despite your qualifications for people of color. Now we go to part 2, and he's saying the exact opposite. If you're a person of color, you're being passed over because of the white guy.
I think James O'Keefe has been sniffing a little too much of the Elmer's glue when he was a child.
I'm telling you, man, I don't think they've decided on a narrative yet. Maybe they're just going with a bunch of them and see what sticks. It just seems a little bit all over the place.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
there's this juxtaposition between corporations, especially in entertainment, that say, you know, we want diversity and all these things, but then in reality,
it's a number. Like, you know, like I've done the reports for diversity inclusion, which they make us do every year. Saying, okay, like, look at the shows, tell us the diverse cast, all the members are in there. So you've seen number can't go up. I'm like, yes, it's gone up, but I feel like that's like the most metric.
Does every department have diversity spreadsheets? I'm seeing a pattern here, and that is from Disney's hiring practices.
what about like the LGBTQ?
Yeah.
I want to see them do it more in like the kids' shows.
I agree. Yeah, it's the way the world is. You can't like pretend it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And say like, oh, we're just going to show like one section of society. That's all the world is. The world is like full of everybody,
Right.
and that should be on screen.
Okay,
So
now I have a
Disney's
question.
Philosophy.
Absolutely.
Okay, now this undercover woman was saying, I would love to see more of the LGBTQ content in the shows.
Well, in kids shows. And well, that was a trap set by her.
That's what I'm getting at. Coming
Right.
from what this kind of background is, yeah, it's all it is it's schmoozing and kind of working their way around to get the person what they want them to say.
It's an entrapment sort of thing, right? So she knows this is O'Keefe is speaking to a certain audience. He's trying to get the anti-woke people riled up, right? So this person, this undercover woman, is trying to bait this gentleman that works at Disney into saying, yeah, we should have more LGBTQ stuff in kids programming, which is everything that the anti-woke people don't want. So they're trying, it's a gotcha moment. What are your thoughts, Seymour?
I wanted to just hear what he had to say first before responding.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can go ahead
Because he was about to say something, and I wanted to.
and get
I
that
think I
first.
knew what he was going to say. But
Yeah, okay. I'll pause it after you're done, and we'll get
Yeah.
your thoughts.
Is that you're never too young to learn about the LGBTQ agenda.
Do you think Bob Iger?
Okay, that's all. That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So Netflix is actually promoting that type of content for kids much more than Disney is. They're actually the number one most diverse streaming platform compared to all the other studios. Multiple reports saying that, but apparently it's Disney's the one that's getting hurt the most on this, reporting on this. I don't understand why nobody's talking about Netflix if Netflix is doing it. Why is it only Disney?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. That's a great question.
Because it gets down to the point where you realize that every studio is actually doing this, but for some reason, people only want to focus on Disney.
Well, yeah, every studio is doing this. We had the last video, part one, where he got Michael. I forgot the gentleman's last name, but Michael. He came from Fox, and he was with Fox for 11 years. So a lot of that stuff was probably back when he was working at Fox. It wasn't necessarily just on the post Disney merger. So,
And I just want to say, if you're going to boycott Disney because for the kids, where are you going to go if every other studio is doing it?
right, exactly, absolutely.
Now, yes. Now he just wants to stay in power.
We, like many, believe Bob Iger is corrupt. And if you look at the recent filings of Disney shareholder Nelson Peltz, it seems others carry the same sentiment. Last week on the Disney tapes, we met Mike Giordano.
You mean Nelson Peltz that lost?
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
But this is where I still even go back to the first video with, as I said, I don't condone O'Keefe's methods. I don't agree of how this was done, what have you. But again, you're on a date, supposedly, and you have the woman asking about the CEO of the company that you work for, which you work up on a higher branch, to say, do you think Bob Iger is corrupt? Oh, yes, right now he is. Yeah, he just wants to be all in power. I mean, literally, I'm sorry, but how dumb can you be?
Yeah, no.
Literally, I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand this asshole, but I also don't even understand the people that they're trying to get this information from. As far as I'm concerned, they deserve to lose their jobs.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too, because it's like, if you ask anybody, you could ask anybody about the CEO of the corporation they work for, most people are going like, yeah, they're corrupt. Most people have a little bit of a, I don't want to say chip on their shoulder, but they feel like, their CEO is corrupt. They're being treated unfairly. They got all kinds of qualms and issues with their jobs. So it's kind of a normal thing. Like, oh yeah, the CEO of my company is corrupt. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Attorney and senior vice president at the Walt Disney Company, who made it very clear that Disney promotes blatant discriminatory hiring.
Could they not get a better picture? That picture is 2016. It looks like they put a lot of filters on it to fix it up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Practices. So much so that he actually expects lawsuits against Disney.
It kind of feels like at some point there's going to be a lawsuit. That's kind of how it feels, just because of,
On this episode, our second installment of the Disney tapes, we're going to delve even further into Disney's systematic discriminatory hiring practices to see just how far they will go to pander in the name of diversity, not only in hiring, but even how they aggressively push race, gender, and LGBTQ programming at children, young children. And in an odd twist, one production executive claims that Disney CEO Bob Iger is corrupt, and that Disney's discriminatory DEI hiring will only get you so far up the Disney corporate ladder. But if you wanted to get a top job in Disney's C-suite, you better be a white Jewish man.
And like you said, Seymour, and a great point. The gentleman, I believe his name is Azad, right? That you pointed out earlier.
Yes.
To me. He very high on the corporate ladder. Like we said, he reports directly to Bob Iger, and he is not a white male, nor is he Jewish. So this is a bunch of nonsense. But here we go.
But apparently they don't check their facts.
Now let's pick up where we left off last week. Remember Disney Senior Vice President Michael Giordano and his claims of blatant discrimination in Disney's hiring practices?
Certainly, there have been times where, there's no way we're hiring a white male
Just
person.
kind of
Yeah.
unspoken.
There are times when it's spoken, but
How would they say it?
there's no way we're hiring a white male person.
I just want to
the
notate
writers
something
and
here.
actors.
I don't know
Yeah,
if we said it in the last video, but they make it seem like he's the senior vice president team lead of the entire department for 20th Century Television. No,
Right.
just for business affairs. Just wanted
Oh.
to state that out there because they're misleading.
That's interesting. Thank you for that, Seymour. That's very, very interesting.
We hear all the time, like, I'm looking to hire writers and actors who bring diversity, and I'm not looking to bring on any more clients who are.
Now let's meet Saurabh Makkar, who also goes by the name Dave. Dave is the director of production finance at Walt Disney Television. He is intimately involved in Disney's production business behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard of the show ABC Network.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're producing it. Okay. What is your role in
So I'm
doing all of that?
production finance executive. I'm involved with like the actual production of the show.
Okay.
Looking at my work starts with like making the budget. That's my domain. Really, the budget for the show. That's my real work.
Okay.
Starting.
Right.
You work on the budget. You work with the different departments. And you kind of like wrangle together a number and you give it to the network and say, "Is this okay with your target?"
Mm-hmm.
If it is, then it's a green lit. You lock the budget and you take it from there. Then we start with like the other parts of my work, which is mostly like active payments, leases, making sure they're on track with the different budgets for every episode, right? Because we lock the budget for one impact, what we call it, right? But each episode can go up and down if it's going to be. So you have to make sure that if it goes up, something comes down. So you kind of like
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're like managing it in real time?
yes, really like managing the producer, executive producers, make sure they're on target with what the network and platform.
Yeah. Very cool. Do you work with at all with like the people who are doing the content, like just to
Yes.
kind of like
Creative,
see
yeah.
what the creative side?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to work with them, right?
Yeah.
There is no doubt that Disney discriminates against white men when they are hiring and choosing who gets promoted. We heard that from Michael last week in Disney Tapes Volume 1, and Saurabh confirms it here.
So maybe there's this juxtaposition between corporations, especially in entertainment, that say, we want diversity and all these things, but then in reality,
But it's a number. I've done the reports for diversity inclusion. They make us do every year. Saying, okay, like look at the shows, tell us the diverse cast, all crew members are in there. So you're seeing number count go up. I'm like, yes, it's gone up, but I feel like that's like a forced metric. There's also a slight glass ceiling for that. I feel like it's not. There's a glass ceiling. It's not quite like being reached yet. You're not going to see a CFO really I guess for lack of a word, non-white, non-Jewish.
what's included in the diversity?
So it's interesting. He's claiming there's a glass ceiling for people of color if you're not white or Jewish. But again, Seymour, you've stated that this other executive, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just slightly confused. So if there's a glass ceiling for people with color, but yet we're not promoting anyone who's white because you have to be person of color, then who are they promoting to get these executive roles? If people who are white not getting promoted from the bottom up, I'm very
Right.
confused. There's like a gap where nobody's getting promoted.
Exactly. So Michael's saying that if you're a white male, you're not getting promoted. This guy is saying there's a glass ceiling for people of color. So then how does anyone get anywhere in this company? It doesn't make any sense. It's not checking out. This is.
Are you just getting hired on and then jump everyone else and you become
right
one of those roles? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, Bob Chapek, Bob Chapek was with the company for 30 plus years, and he was getting promoted all along the way, and ultimately landed as CEO, which completely contradicts what Michael was saying, that we don't promote white men. So what happened with that? And then they ended up firing him, firing a white male. So it is, the whole thing is just, and then we have the executive Azad, which you were mentioning, Seymour, who's in the PR department. So,
And I think they're trying to pinpoint the CFO that they just recently hired, Hugh Johnson, because he's white. Even though the reason why they brought him in was because his track record at Pepsi, not because he was white.
That's what I'm saying. It all goes by if you have the credibility and the qualifications for the job. I don't care if you're white, if you're black, if you're Asian, if you're Native American. I don't care. If you know how to do the job and the role that you were going for, that's all I care about. And that's what a lot of these people, they always kind of look at that, as I said, the front optics of why does everything have to be showcased based off of the appearance and the color of somebody's skin, whether it's for the positive or the negative. Can we just look at people just as people, as a society?
right. And the O'Keefe fans who are surely going to believe everything that's in this video are gonna say, I guarantee it. If let's just say Disney decides to hire a person of color for the next CEO, let's just say there's an outside candidate that they decide to pick, and that's the next CEO. Well, then the narrative will be, well, see, it's a diversity hire. Well, wait a minute. I thought there was a glass ceiling for people of color. It's like I think this group, they want to have it both ways. You know what I'm saying? So if Disney has a high ranking person of color, it's check boxes, it's the diversity, DEI. If they don't have that, or the perception is, well, okay, there's a glass ceiling for them, it's only white men. It's like you can't have it both ways. If Disney does have those higher positions for people of color, then obviously there isn't a glass ceiling anymore. And you can't turn around and be like, aha, see, it's a diversity hire. That's what I'm saying here. When it comes to this stuff, when it comes to a lot of these anti-woke journalists and pundits and what have you, you either fall on one side of this trap or the other. There's no equation here where Disney can win. If they hire that diversity if they have diversity in the higher rankings in C-suite, then they're pandering. If they don't do it, then there's a glass ceiling and haha, they're bad that way too. You can't win, dude. And that's what's frustrating.
And I just want to point out one thing. Sorry.
Sure. No, you're good.
Shout out to Hugh Johnson. Okay, he came from Pepsi Co. for 14 years. If you want to check out his track record for what he actually done and not the color of his skin, go on LinkedIn, go on CNBC, look at his previous videos with Pepsi and then the current videos with Disney. He has that track record. So shout out to Hugh Johnson for doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm just surprised that Bob Iger even got someone like Hugh Johnson. Because, man, his track record. I'm looking at his LinkedIn page right now, and he has it. That's the guy you want on the company because of his track record and not the color of his skin.
Exactly. What he's done for Pepsi, like you said, his track record, it was an incredible, and I don't think Iger gets enough credit for bringing him on. We've talked about it a lot on the show, Seymour, but that was a huge catch for Disney to get him over here. In fact, if I understand correctly, he's on the CNBC financial board or something like that. He was high ranking over at CNBC. He's on some sort of committee over there.
Yeah, the Global CFO Council founding member.
There he is. Exactly.
For
so
11 years and 5 months.
There we go. So even holier than thou, Comcast Universal seems to hold a lot of value for Mr. Johnson. So it's not just Disney like they're implying here, just hired him because he's white. He's got an excellent track record that even CNBC acknowledges.
So they'll say is the cast diverse? They have a lead cast member who's of color. Do they have a cameraman, or do they have a director who's of color? So that way we're good. That I can say. I've seen a lot of directors, people who are of color, getting opportunities. And as a writer,
People of color.
Yeah.
What? Michael, the senior vice president, also acknowledged Disney's diversity spreadsheets in last week's report. Does every department have diversity spreadsheets? I'm seeing a pattern here, and that is from Disney's hiring practices. Not a week goes by without a news headline about potential medical supply shortages, threats to our infrastructure,
Hold on, guys.
power grid.
Hold on. We got what they would call some grifting here from O'Keefe. Here we go.
lengths that Disney will go to push a woke, diverse agenda into kids' programming, young kids, and also hear firsthand why they would do such a thing. According to Disney Dave, it's a good idea to get younger kids introduced and educated on the ways of LGBTQ.
What about like the LGBTQ?
Yeah.
I want to see them do it more in like the kids shows.
I agree. Yeah.
Are you asking me on a date? Your pulse and heartbeat have quickened.
No, it's the way the world is. It's not like pretend it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And so like, oh, we're just gonna show like one section.
Okay, so this is what I don't understand about this argument. So I have why is there an issue of acknowledging gay people in content? Like it's not sexually explicit, right? Like for example, these two gentlemen having this conversation, you know what I'm saying? What's wrong with that? If it was a woman and a guy, there'd be no issue. But for some reason, this is an issue. It's not inappropriate. You're not teaching kids about. You're not trying to influence kids to be gay. You're just acknowledging that gay people exist. Why is that an issue? What are your thoughts on that, Seymour? I just find it kind of this weird narrative that like if you acknowledge they exist, somehow you're trying to influence kids into be, you know.
Here's the thing. I don't understand why they do that, because let's say you have two gay men holding hands, but apparently their brain is thinking, oh, they're going to have sex. Huh? Why are you thinking that?
That came from their mind.
Exactly. So what if I'm holding hands with someone, you think that's going to go right there, sex? I mean, maybe, but
Yeah,
but
right?
I mean, like in a television show, do you think that if your kids, like a family, just holding hands, talking, right, or even just a simple kiss, why is your mind going that way?
Right. It's like saying like you see Belle and the Beast, you know, in romantic situations, and she's gonna have sex with the Beast. Like, so where was the outrage with that? Like, I don't understand how if you have a romantic situation on screen, whether it's straight or gay, to me it's the same equation. Like, I don't think you're promoting sex with a gay couple any more than you are when you see Ariel and Prince Eric being romantic. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. It's not like there's inappropriate imagery involved or anything. They're not doing any of that. It's just a relationship, you know, just like a straight relationship. So it's just weird.
That's all the world is. The world is like full of everybody.
Right.
And that should be on screen.
That's my little sib Blake and her girlfriend Ghibli.
Following in mom's wake.
Oh, nonsense. I'm just an architect.
It's important, I think, for me to see like, you know, the LGBTQ stories and like, especially for kids, so that they can understand all of that and you know, introduce it to them just so that they're comfortable and all this stuff. Like, do you think that Disney like makes that a priority?
I think they are.
Do you think it's authentic? Like,
not quite. Netflix does it better.
So Disney.
Netflix does it better, Seymour. That was just what you were saying, wasn't it?
Nobody wants to talk about Netflix doing it. I don't understand, but like every company is doing it. Just like how people are complaining that Disney with DEI, every company, even Tesla has it, but they don't talk about it anymore.
I mean, I could pull up the Comcast Universal company page. They have a diversity and inclusion department, just like Disney does. All these major companies, all these major studios do. You know what I'm saying? You're absolutely correct. What are your thoughts, George?
Yeah, it's a double standard, really, because obviously the person that was just working, trying for them to get information out of a person that's working for the Walt Disney Company says, oh yeah, my company's trying to do it, but Netflix does it better. So it's like, okay, so should you also be targeting Netflix? You know,
Yeah.
Why is it just Disney? Why is it that all these other companies follow suit, not to Disney, but just to the overall demographic of what the world is today? But Disney is the only one that should be accountable for it.
Well, yeah.
And then as far as with the like the LGBTQ, focused content or images in the films, it's automatically when someone, you see a guy and a girl interact, you're like, okay. But then for some reason, you have this audience that see a guy and a guy or a girl and a girl, and it's like, whoa, that's like completely
That's sexual.
Yeah, that's
Well,
like.
was it sexual when Ariel and Prince Eric are romantic? Was it sexual when every other princess and prince are romantic? I don't understand why it's only sexual when it's a gay relationship.
Right. Snow White lived with 7 men.
His philosophy is that you're never too young to learn about the LGBTQ agenda. Apparently, even Dave.
It's not an agenda. They're just showcasing two people that care about each other. It's not an agenda. I don't understand how, hey, I'm a guy, I'm interested in this other guy. That's not an agenda. No more than I'm a guy and I like this girl is an agenda. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like even just having a conversation, or if the two of them decide to go out on a date, just to say a date,
Right.
Okay, that's it. They're just going out. That's like me. If I was to go out on a date with a girl and then, bad example, go ahead, move on.
Dave thinks Disney has gone too far, pushing the DEI thing in their programming. He talks about in one recent failed show, Debt and Other Details, where Disney tried so hard to push the DEI window.
Oh, real quick, and you mentioned why isn't these other companies getting the same scrutiny? And I'll answer that question right now. It's because the eyeballs and the money is in talking about Disney. That's why you see this in a lot of content. YouTube would have you where it's a hyper focus on Disney, and it's because people care about Disney. It's more salacious when it comes to Disney because it's Disney. That's why you see that. It's not as sexy to do a undercover report on Netflix or Paramount. It's not as sexy. The money isn't gonna roll in with that. But with Disney, oh, it's gonna roll in. The eyeballs are gonna be there because people care about that company. You know what I'm saying? So
it's like a digital National Enquirer. It's like no one wants to see or read anything positive. It's clickbait. They want to hear, oh, what's this negativity spread coming from the Walt Disney Company, the company that was founded on wholesome family entertainment, and they just became so corrupt,
Oh, so corrupt. And I think I have a drop for Disney being so corrupt.
That it totally.
There's one thing I wanted to say. Sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he was talking about how Disney. He's saying that Disney tracks their diversity workforce. They're actually enforced to. They have to for the FCC to require. They're required to maintain records on their diversity of their workforce. So if you're a public company, you have to do that, regardless if you're Tesla, Disney, Comcast, Netflix. You have to report it to FCC. They don't have to be public, but they still have to be in compliant with them.
OG, your audio's up, bro.
Oh, yeah, no, great point, Seymour. And also in California, and I mentioned this in our part 1 video, there are actual laws here in California for corporate boards to have a certain amount of diversity on the corporate board. So that's not even Disney's decision necessarily. They're required by the state to have a certain makeup of their corporate board. So that also comes into play here.
I feel like in our show we insert diversity when it's not really organic to the story.
It
kind of stands out. It just feels like a weird
orchestrated.
Yes, that's the word, orchestrated, right? Like we did a show called Debt and Other Details.
What's it called?
Debt and Other Details.
Okay.
It just came out a couple months back. Now it's a whodunit. The good star cast over there. The main lead was a really big actor. He was a really big actor.
Okay.
It flopped. The audience didn't connect.
According to Dave, the cause and failure of one of Disney's many flops was again attributed to trying to force DEI into programming where it was not only out of place, it was highly inauthentic.
It happens.
Yeah.
But, if you did the analysis, the post-mortem of it, you're just like, why? Because the story, they just tried to feed in so much diversity and they took away from what could be authentic. It just didn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
The characters felt like, oh, they're trying to hit a box. Like, there's one lesbian character there. There's one, African-American. There's one Indian. There's one Chinese. There's one this. But it just felt like these people would never be together in that setting. You know what I'm saying?
Wouldn't you have liked to be a fly on the wall in that meeting, just watching the guy with the DEI checklist? Chinese, check. African American, check. Lesbian, check. Indian, check.
Yes. It's just like it doesn't feel authentic. I'm like, that's the word you guys are missing. Authenticity. Like when you're doing a show, it's gotta feel real. It's gotta feel like, wow, this is like the way it is.
Okay,
Really?
wait. Okay.
At what point do they realize?
So what they're saying is you're having a whole bunch of different diverse people that are in a group that are in friends. One's Indian, one's Asian, one's gay, one's straight, one's white, one's black. But apparently that's not realistic in real life.
Oh yeah, I didn't see the show. I can't comment on that particular dynamic with that, but essentially what they're saying, is that it all these people coming together, it makes it not organic. Whatever that means. I gotta watch the show to see how but that's more of a go ahead, Seymour.
I just wanted to state they quoted the wrong show. That show doesn't exist. Depth and Debt in Other Details. It's actually Death in Other Details. I don't know how they get that. It was canceled after one season, but it was not Debt in Other Details. I just wanted to point that out. I didn't get that clear. I don't know why.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think probably if that's the case, Dave probably said death, but I guess with his kind of broken accent,
the O'Keefe people,
they took it as they thought he said debt. So when they did it into the subtitles,
but that's a big issue, and Seymour brought that up because when you have investigative reporting like this, right? And I'm using investigative extremely loosely here, but when you have investigative reporting here, and you can't even get those kind of details right, it kind of taints the entire thing. It puts into question all of it because you can't even get this. That should have been the easiest thing, to get the show name right, and they couldn't even do that. That's wild.
Because here's the thing: even if at that moment they did think he said debt, after that interview, you would think that they would go back and do the research, see the cast, maybe watch it an episode or two. It's called research.
Well, you would think. I mean, that's a huge error.
That DEI just isn't working for the audience or for the shareholders.
Well, let me ask O'Keefe a little question here. Seymour, you brought up Netflix, right?
Yeah.
DEI isn't working. Okay, you're going to find examples of multiracial content that didn't work. Absolutely. But one of Netflix's biggest shows, or even franchises now, is Bridgerton. Set in a time where it was mostly, or set in a time and an area where it was mostly white people. But in the show, it's a very diverse cast. Very diverse cast. And it's one of the most popular shows out there right now. Bridgerton is huge. It's very popular. So what happened there, O'Keefe? Why did this example of diversity seem to do just fine and be very successful? But, this other stuff it's such an automatic disaster. So maybe it's not so much the diversity that is the problem. Maybe it's just some shows work and some shows don't, and some movies work and some movies don't. Just like it's always been. I think what they're doing is they're taking, and Seymour, you've mentioned this before so many times, so I want to give you credit. They're taking anything that flops and saying, see, it was because it was woke. See, it was because it was diverse. But see, when there's a successful thing, it's the antithesis of woke then. And we see it in real time, even when it comes to like Barbie. That was the wokest thing ever made until it came out and made $1 billion. Then it's not woke anymore. We saw that with, there's a fefew other examples, right? Seymour, refresh my memory.
Yeah, I have a list. Give me a moment here.
Go ahead, sir.
I have a list of this actually. So yeah, the House of the Dragon, they called it woke until it was successful. The Last of Us, they called it woke until it was successful. Barbie, they called it the ultra woke, that it was going to be the biggest flop in history for movie industry. And then they went quiet and deleted all their tweets and their videos. They called the Mario woke and a few of their games until they got a backlash from the audience. They called Avatar 2 woke, and then they deleted their videos. Actually, one user I saw because Rumble doesn't do this anymore. But I was looking at like Avatar 2 reviews, and and Rumble said his video was deleted, and it was saying it was ultra woke. It's going to destroy the movie industry. But yeah, that got deleted. And then they were also talking about Inside Out 2 last year, that it was going to be woke. It's just going to be like Turning Red. And look at that. Now it's a massive success, and now they're pivoting because it's a massive success.
Exactly. So when this guy comes out here and says, well, you know, DEI has been a massive failure. Well, in some cases it hasn't. Like I mentioned Netflix, I mentioned Bridgerton. I mean, there's a lot of diversity in there, you know?
And the last 3 movies that reached over $1 billion was Barbie, Mario, and Avatar 2.
Yep. And
those were all counted as woke. And also, don't forget that it's not just media that implements DEI. You have Microsoft and Apple, who are the biggest companies in the world. Especially Apple, they're on like the same page as Disney with diversity. You go on their page, you'll see it. They even have even Apple watches with rainbows on it, and nobody's complaining. I never see anyone complain about Apple with DEI and their diversity, even though they're on the same page as Disney. Even in Apple TV Plus and in media, they implement it as well. It's all in there, but no one complains.
Well, no one complains because it's a $3 trillion company.
Yeah.
And when your whole message is go woke, go broke, it kind of runs counter to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and even with the boycott and Twitter, and everyone was saying that Disney go woke, go broke. They did not want to talk about Apple, who was boycotting the advertising on Twitter as well. They only wanted to mention Disney because they're scared that if they had to boycott their iPhones, they're scared that, you know, they're my iMessage. I don't want to go green and go to the Android. They're scared. They didn't want to. A lot of these people don't want to face the truth that a lot of the stuff that they're angry about has actually been very successful.
Exactly. Well said, brother.
All of this. Disney executive Dave even tells our undercover journalist how he feels Elon Musk doesn't believe in free speech and is only out there to seek attention.
Something that was like, you know, obviously there's all this drama with Bob Iger and Elon Musk and like all this stuff, and I was reading something because, you know, people have come down on Disney.
He does stuff for like publicity.
Okay.
But it works for him.
Absolutely.
I don't think what he says literally, like what Elon believes.
Do you think he actually believes in free speech?
No. He does. Right. So his biggest thing was, I want free speech, right?
Right.
People joined Twitter and started impersonating him. He blocked those people from Twitter. Now,
How dare they?
How's that free speech?
Yeah.
So I'm like, you're the owner, you can make up rules as you go. Like, free speech means anything. Free speech. If I want to impersonate you, I should be allowed. Right? That's your whole speech, right?
Yeah.
Unfettered access to whatever you want to say.
What do you think Elon's motive is?
Attention.
Attention? You think he cares that much about attention?
You're narcissist. Don't care about that. You got big ego. You feel into that. People like him love spotlight. He wants to be in that news. He wants to be in the front page every day saying, Elon Musk did this, Elon Musk said that. That gives him energy. I've seen people like that. I know people like that. You know, like they love that energy. They thrive on it. On that spotlight.
I've had it with all my personal and private information being exposed and exploited by big tech.
Can you pause?
Yeah,
That's an ad too.
Yep.
What was that all about? He talks about Bob Iger and Elon, and then for a few minutes, none of it was relevant to Disney.
Yeah, exactly.
He was just asking his opinion on Elon.
That was, in my opinion, that whole thing was another bait trap, basically trying to get this Disney executive on the record, kind of trashing Elon Musk. See how woke they are. See how he's trashing Mr. Musk, and see the disdain they have for Elon. It's like Elon has done a trash job running X. I'm sorry, the Tesla investors who Seymour, I'm gonna let you elaborate on this because you're way more connected to that community. The Tesla investors are frustrated how distracted he's been with the Twitter shit. He's completely mismanaged both of these companies. But Seymour, I'll let you take the stage on that.
Oh yeah, they're very upset, and they're not upset with him being being, an actual CEO and, improving the company and doing what's needed to be done. But things like Twitter is a distraction and they don't like it. And you see a lot of people, even I'm friends with now on X, where they call him out, and then all the Tesla investors who are diehard Elon fans will come and attack him because they don't want to face the truth. And it's true, because it got to the point where it's like, okay, they did the judge took away like $50 billion pay from him, and then they had a void on it, and then a lot of people are getting backlash for stating the truth, like, okay, Elon's getting $50 billion. That's worth more than the entire net profit that Tesla made and the entire free cash flow that Tesla made. And he's getting distracted on Twitter, and he had to sell a lot of his Tesla stocks because he has to pay for Twitter. Like, if he just focused on Tesla, he has so many companies. If he just focused on Tesla, nobody would have an issue with. No.
Well, then people talk about Disney, right? Like, why is Bob Iger getting political and he's turning away his customer base? Why is Elon doing that? Why is Elon trashing progressives when he sells electric cars? Does that make sense to you?
No, I find that very confusing, because a lot of people, Republican, like their gas companies, and they're invested in gas companies and oil. So I don't understand that as well.
Right, but you never hear that from this crowd. Where how come there's no call to get Elon to stop being political? Why? Because they don't care about the politics in these corporations. They want their politics in there. That's the only thing. If Bob Iger was a conservative and he was political, none of these people would be complaining. Okay,
it's cherry picking.
Right.
That's all it is. It's cherry pick.
Elon can spout off every day and run Tesla, and none of them care. So it's proof in the pudding right there that it's a matter of what they're saying and not the politics themselves.
Yeah, and one more thing.
Yeah.
The same people who was defending Elon, how he deserves $50 billion, even though, I mentioned the net profit and free cash flow higher than the entire company they made, attacking Bob Iger because he's getting paid too much. And I was very confused at that, because I'm like, $50 billion is a lot of money. And then they're attacking Bob Iger during the strike, saying you should be paying your actors. And then I'm like, if he even goes to $0 or even gives someone his money away, it's still not enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy, man.
OMG. Now let's get back to Disney's discriminatory hiring practices. Just when you thought there is no way Disney will hire you if you're a white man, Disney Dave tosses us a curveball. Imagine seeing this ad in the Help Wanted section. Job opening, Disney C-suite, must be a Jewish white man. Okay, so it isn't quite that overt. But let's say that you're lucky enough to get a job at Disney and you're setting your sights on going all the way up the corporate ladder. What's it going to take to get there? Again, by now, it has clearly been established that it's almost impossible to get hired and or promoted.
Yeah.
Was he talking about an ad and just didn't show us the ad?
We haven't seen it yet. No.
Is he going to show it to us?
I hope so. But,
the job posting that says that, or the ad, or whatever he's talking about?
Right. Yeah. He said, well, not that over. Okay. Well, let's see the ad then, Mr. O'Keefe. Hopefully he shows it, Seymour. Let's see.
At Disney as a white man.
I've been at the company 11 years now, so I have friends in HR and I have friends in the
Wait, where's the
where's the ad? So he paraphrases the ad. Basically, we're requiring you to be Jewish American. Well, not that direct. Where's the ad then? Why don't you let your audience decide that? Why don't you post the ad and show us and let the audience decide if that's what they were trying to say? Wow. Let's see if he shows it later on. We'll give him a fair shake. We still got like 5 minutes left in this video. Let's see. But you know what? If I were to bet a steak dinner, I bet you he doesn't show it.
I was going to tell you this, Mike, but they're not considering any white males for the shop. They're just not. That's probably their line.
And of course, we heard how Disney even bonuses executives for hiring non-whites.
There's literally like a percentage of my bonus at the end of the year is theoretically based on whether I have hired, supported, mentored people who bring diversity.
What kind of mentor? What do you mean?
like if I've done things to help further the careers of people who bring diversity.
Oh, wow.
That's hiring them or helping them to get promoted or mentoring them.
That is until you apply for a job in Disney's coveted C-suite where their top executives hang out. Though Disney makes a big show of pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion across middle management and even in their casting and staffing of their productions, Dave Macker claims that Disney has a glass ceiling when you get to the top, and you have to be a white Jewish man if you want a shot at making it into the C-suite.
It was really cool to hear that, that they take that into consideration, like, bringing in people from diverse backgrounds and that kind of thing.
There's also a slight glass ceiling for that. I feel like it's not, there's a glass ceiling. It's not quite like been reached yet. You're not going to see a CFO really I guess, for lack of a word, non-white, non-Jewish.
Dave goes on to point out that the tech industry is run by Indians and the entertainment business is run by white Jewish men. And that unless you are a white Jewish man, you're likely never going to see Disney's C-suite.
Tim Cook is not Indian. I just want to point that out. The CEO of Apple. Don't know why.
Odd. Very odd.
Honestly, these people literally. I feel like I just lost like IQ points watching this fucking thing.
Mark Zuckerberg is also not Indian. You have two companies, Microsoft and Alphabet. But, I mean, NVIDIA is also not Indian. I'm very confused. What's happening? Berkshire? Okay, Berkshire is not tech, but Berkshire also not Indian. I'm looking at like Amazon, also not Indian. I'm very confused. What's happening? They mentioned only two companies that are the tech is actually Indian.
Right, exactly.
Tesla. Is Elon Musk Indian? No, I know he's South African, but he's not Indian.
He's not Indian. That's
yeah, he was actually born. Yeah, I think he was actually born in South Africa. But yeah, he's a white South African who's not an Indian.
Wild, absolutely wild.
Everybody's like brown. All the all the CEOs are like all tech companies mostly in there. You look at it now.
It's not true.
So you think that they wouldn't hire a C-suite who's not white or not Jewish?
In entertainment, no. That is, but it's not just us. It's like every studio you look at, you find Indians pretty much higher there. You find like chief technology officer, he'll be Indian, obviously technology, right?
He even claims that a very well-qualified Haitian Hispanic woman who had rapidly worked her way up the Disney ladder left the company, acknowledging that she likely had no future there, oddly enough, because she wasn't white, Jewish, or man enough.
She was like Haitian and Hispanic.
Haitian,
Hispanic mix. Just left Disney like a month ago. She left because she didn't really have. She's a woman. She didn't really have either of her bosses in her corner.
Okay.
And she quit saying that she just was like, I just not feeling right. So I feel, and that being said, that the department heads are two Jewish men.
Okay, can you pause that real quick?
Yep, got you.
Yeah.
Can you go back to where it shows his last statement? If you could just rewind it back a little bit.
Right there?
Yeah, right there. So I feel, he feels.
Right.
Again,
and that it's more guessing stuff. Yeah, that statement we had with Michael, it was like, this is the impression I get. I kind of get the feeling. I'm guessing. It's a lot of that stuff. Yeah, exactly.
She's kind of saying that team of color felt that and she quit. Because she just said, I can't seem to like.
So having heard all of this, what do you think Dave thinks of Disney's CEO, Bob Iger?
Do you think Bob Iger is corrupt?
Now, real quick, I just want to bring something up too. Now, I know this was the previous administration of the Walt Disney Company with Bob Chapek, but one of the highest ranking people in the Chapek administration was Kareem Daniel, a black man. So this whole idea that like these higher ups there's a ceiling for people of color. Kareem Daniel was very high on that list. In fact, Kareem Daniel was seen in the industry as Chapek's right-hand man. So, I mean, unless they're trying to say that things have changed dramatically under Bob Iger, I don't know. But just a few years ago, Kareem Daniel kind of disproves what this guy is saying.
Now, yes. Now he just wants to stay in power. He came with a 2-year promise. In 2 years, I'll turn the company around and I'll get you a new CEO. He said that 2026. He got rid of a few people who were like, who could have been against him.
And this is the thing too. And this is again, this is how Bob Iger can't win here. He came back to fix the company, right? Because even Hollywood thought it needed fixing, and a lot of people who even complain on social media thought it needed fixing. So he comes in to try to fix it because Chapek, wasn't doing a good job. Here's the thing. We got into the Chapek mess largely because he rushed into it and threw the keys of the kingdom to Chapek and said, you deal with it right before the pandemic. Now he's in, and now he's trying to fix and correct course. And now, this is where he falls on either side of the trap, right? If it's a hard out in 2 years, and the company isn't fixed with a great CEO, well, another Bob Iger failure. If he extends it to make sure he's doing it right and to make sure he's not rushing this time like he did the last time, see, he's corrupt, and all he wants to do is hold on to power. The guy can't win. He literally cannot win. No matter what he does, either he's going too fast, too slow. It does, it's ridiculous.
One thing I wanted to point out right here,
Sure.
this subtitles. She left because of family medical leave. Bob Iger didn't get rid of her.
That's a good point.
I don't know why he's saying this, why he's blatantly lying, but she left on family medical leave.
That's a great point. She did.
And we got rid of her. Like CFO Christine McCarthy, she was the CFO of Disney. He got rid of her. That's why I felt like, okay, I see this. Like he's removing any potential threat. She could have been CEO.
Yes, you heard that right. He, like many, believe Bob Iger is corrupt. And if you look at the recent filings of Disney shareholder Nelson Peltz, it seems others carry the same sentiment.
Do you think Bob Iger is corrupt?
Now, yes.
Why does Dave Mocker think that Bob Iger is corrupt? Is it because of his hiring practices?
I just want to pause.
Insistence on pushing.
He mentioned Nelson Peltz, and yet the shareholders didn't want him. Nobody wanted him. It was like 3 times the amount of votes that was voted for Bob Iger and everyone on the board, and not him.
It was
Nelson
a blowout.
Peltz. Yeah.
It was a blowout.
I don't know why he keeps mentioning Nelson Peltz when he doesn't have a track record of succeeding against Disney.
And apparently he can't even pronounce his last name right.
Yeah, he keeps calling him
Peltz.
Bizarre sexual and racial content on young kids, or how he uses his power and influence for political fundraising for far-left causes and leftist politicians. Who knows? One thing we know for sure, under Bob Iger's leadership, Disney, a once stellar and safe family brand.
Also, one more thing I want to say.
Sure.
Christine, she left because of the family medical. She's the reason why Bob Iger is actually back. She was the one pushing for it. Just wanted to state that as well. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't she? Yeah, exactly. You're right about that. She was the one that kind of had this whole like shadow coup to get him back in, right? And
she couldn't stand Chapek.
Right. She backstabbed Bob Chapek.
Yeah.
Exactly. I forgot about that, Seymour. You're absolutely correct on that.
Maybe Iger should spend more time on Disney's balance sheet and profit and loss statement and less time checking the boxes on his DEI spreadsheet. So again, I will ask, will Bob Iger clean up his act and get the mouse house whipped into shape, or will he continue to play the part of Goofy on Wall Street? If Iger doesn't get Disney fixed quickly, there may be a job opening in Disney's C-suite soon. If you're a white Jewish
Can you pause
man.
this?
Well, there is an opening. That's why they're looking for a new CEO. Go ahead, Seymour.
I'm just slightly confused. What do they need to fix for Disney? Their revenues have been going up year over year. Or is he just simply looking at the stock price and that's how you compare a company's fundamentals and how they're structuring right now financially?
Right. Exactly.
Because give me one moment.
Yeah.
Give me a second here. I just want to. Yeah. So they're doing pretty good actually. Give me 1 second. So yeah, Disney's revenue right now is at its highest. Disney's total assets is at its highest. Disney was able to bring back its dividends, and Disney has been paying down their debt since COVID from $54 billion to $39 billion. I mean, if Disney's not doing well, how are they doing that? Streaming got to profitability just last quarter, tremendous, because it took many years, like over 6 years for Netflix to do it, and it took the Disney under 4 years to do it. I know their movies haven't been doing well, but you can't focus on one aspect of the company and call that as a flop for the entire company, because Disney's flywheel, that's what's great about it, is that one sector cannot do well and then all the other sectors can boost it up until they fix that issue. So parks have been doing great. Parks has been doing at 27% margin, which tech companies would die for, because that's not a tech margin, that's a park margin. And tech companies were dying for that. Revenues for parks have been going up year over year as well. I don't understand it. What do they need to fix besides the movies that haven't been doing well? And some of that can contribute to streaming doing so well now.
Well, and you're right. Okay, some of the movies have been not doing so great. Some of them have even downright flopped. And now we see Inside Out 2 likely now to hit $1 billion. I think it's safe to say. And then we have Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, like, nothing is set in stone, but it's pretty clear that's probably going to be a big hit. We got Moana 2 also coming in November, which again will likely be another Disney hit. I mean, it looks like 2024 is going to be a pretty banger year for them at the box office. So even that, which was, I would agree with you, Seymour, was the weakest part of the company the past few years. Even that is rebounding in big ways this year. Again, I don't know why what he's actually getting at here. I mean, I think it's a lot with O'Keefe. A lot of it feels like red meat to a certain demographic, like a certain group that wants to hear what they want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Big Mouth's bad. Yeah. Disney's woke, and it's like, get your act together, Bob. It's red meat for that, but they're not really looking at the actual like facts on the ground. It's like, why don't we look at Warner Brothers? You want to talk about needing some help here?
Maybe he was talking about the linear, because that's doing bad for everyone, though. I mean, that's the only sector where I think if somebody wanted to say Disney wasn't doing well, that one I would agree. And there's no way to pivot that, because linear is dying. Legacy TV is dying. There's no way around it. Streaming is the future. And if you want to know a company that needs help and get fixing, it's Comcast, because majority of their revenues are coming from that. And that's why you see them pushing a lot of the parks now, because they realize that their money makers are dying.
Yeah, exactly.
Let us know what you think in the comments below. Next week, we'll release Disney Tapes Volume 3, where we dive into a different executive from Disney. Stay tuned. If you want to become...
And here we go. And that executive will undo these last two narratives, and it'll, I mean, if we're going to go on the track record. But interesting video.
Apparently, all these executives at Disney are single and go on the same app and go to the same restaurant and order the same wine.
Yeah, and they go on these dates with these women who are grilling them on DEI and Bob Iger. Totally not suspicious at all. I'm actually that to me is the biggest eye opener of all this. You have these very smart people within the Walt Disney Company, and they can't see through this. I'm telling you right now, man, if I was on a date with a woman and I was getting questions like this, most people are not that invested. Like, if she's like grilling him on this, that's weird behavior. The fact that these guys can't pick up on that and how weird that is kind of eye-opening. I don't know.
They're not thinking with their head. They're thinking with the other one.
Right. That's exactly it. So interesting conversation. When part 3 comes out, we will definitely react to that.
I'm assuming the part 3 is probably going to be the outdoor date where he walks up, I guess. I wonder if that's the part 3.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Where O'Keefe crashes the party.
Yeah, exactly. Part 3. Anyway, gentlemen, fantastic conversation. Seymour, any final thoughts before we get going?
Yeah, that whole video. I'm sorry, but that was a joke. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand one point. You had to be black enough to get promoted, but then you hit a ceiling, and then they will only let people Jewish and white pass that. Yet we're not promoting them the same. I'm very confused. It was contradicting its own video they just made, and it made my head hurt. You know that meme? It's like, oh, it just gave me cancer. That's what it did. I don't understand. It made me more dumb after watching it.
No, I know. It absolutely did. So how do these? Okay. Like you're right though, Seymour. So only white people can work their way up to get to C-suite, right? That's what we're hearing in part 2. But part 1 told us that white people don't get promoted. So how do the white people that don't get promoted from video 1 get to the point where they can get promoted into C-suite in part 2?
We'll find out, I guess, in the 3rd video.
I guess we'll find out. Yeah. I mean, it's wild, Stay tuned, folks. They're going to explain it. They're going to give us all that 4D chess. Italiano. Any final thoughts before we go?
I honestly, I'm usually not one loss for words, but this video, I don't really know what more I could say on it. Honestly, for the people who created it, for the people that were a part of it, for the people who watch it and actually believe that this is all true, I honestly, I don't know really what to say, honestly, because the writing's on the wall. It's literally right there in front of your face. It literally doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
It's very choppy. We have no proof. We're just going by hearsay from these people that work for the company, but apparently they can't tell when they're being interrogated. So it's like, I just don't get it. And then on top of that, O'Keefe's his sponsorship of the video, sponsored by him, protect your privacy, and it's like this whole damn video was exploiting privacy.
Right, exactly.
So maybe that's what he's trying to say. These guys would have been protected had they would have ordered the O'Keefe
privacy thing, whatever.
Yeah.
It's phony baloney, man. It's fun to react to though, because it is so hilarious. Like it's so stupid, but interesting stuff. But George, if you could let everybody home know where they could find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go, Mr. Seymour Duck. If you could let everybody home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Oh yeah, you can find me on X at Mr. Seymour Duck.
There he is. Everyone comment down below with all your thoughts on everything about the salacious Disney tapes part 2. Let us know what you think about C-Suite, Disney's hiring practices. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? If you disagree with us, that's totally fine. Comment down below. Just keep it civil. I want to thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. And until the next time.